Jon Snow peered through the salt-sprayed mist that clung to the deck rails of the Carrick Winter's Oath, letting the Westerosi dawn bleed slowly into vision. Somewhere beyond the opaque gray sheet of fog, the lion's jaws of Casterly rock waited. Golden, jagged, ancient. He could taste copper in the sea air, as though the cliffs themselves already leached their promised ore into the waves. A gull cried, wheeling overhead, then vanished, its wings lost in roiling white. The call reminded Jon of ghosts. He had sailed a dozen seas and half as many wars, yet none felt so strange as this quiet voyage toward a home that was not his. He flexed his bad hand, scarred by dragonglass, by flame, by the bite of winter, and felt the healed bones protest. The maester aboard had warned him the damp would set the break aching, yet the ache was welcome. Pain reminded him he still lived, that stories ended only when the heart failed. 7 days had passed since the Red Keep's great council had bestowed upon him what Bran, now styled Bran the Broken, declared a necessary gift to bind realm to realm. Tyrion Lannister, humbled hand, had stood before lords and ladies, voice ringing as he read the decree. Jon Snow, once bastard of Winterfell, was named Lord of Casterly Rock, Warden of the West, and Keeper of the mines that lined half the crown's coffers. The hall had fallen into stunned murmurs. A wolf ruling a lion's den. Madness. Yet madness had forged the age they lived in. Jon had not agreed immediately. How could he? The oath to take the black had been sworn a second time, even if the Night's Watch now numbered barely 20. Yet hours later, as dawn crept across King's Landing's broken stones, Bran had come to him in the scorched courtyard. The king's eyes, milky with sights no mortal should possess, had fixed on Jon's own, as though gazing past skin into marrow. "The wall can be rebuilt by others," Bran said in a voice that belonged partly to the boy Jon once knew and partly to something ancient and cold. "But the West needs more than a lion's roar. It needs a heart that remembers winter." Maltamins. In the end, Jon accepted, though he did so with the same sense of leaving some hidden limb behind that he had felt when marching south from Winterfell years earlier. He left Ghost north of the Trident, running with Nymeria's great pack under the moon. A direwolf among lions might prove provocative. He wore no crown, no gilded cloak, only a wolf's head brooch of dark iron clasped to a plain wool surcoat. Still, men bowed as he boarded the ship at Maidenpool. Some bowed out of gratitude. Word of his killing the Dragon Queen had settled into legend already, others from fear, and a few because they believed in him. Now, as Winter's Oath glided forward, the fog thinned, and the horizon fractured into rugged silhouettes. The rock rose like a titan from a half-drowned world, crags the color of old brass, crowned by towers that glimmered in dawnlight. A cluster of smaller ships escorted them, banners snapping. White fields with roaring golden lions held by crimson ropes. A longboat cut away to meet them. Aboard it, Jon glimpsed a woman armored in polished steel, crimson cape draped over shoulder. He recognized the lion's head of Lannister on her breastplate even before she hailed him. Cersei Lannister, youngest daughter of Kevan, commander of the castle guard. Sir Davos Seaworth joined Jon at the rail, gnarled fingers tightening on the weathered wood. His beard, more frost than coal these days, stirred in the breeze. "There she is," Davos murmured. "Finest fortress in Westeros, some say. Bigger than Storm's End, richer than Old Town, prouder than the Eyrie. Neh. Pride can founder a ship faster than holes in the hull," Jon replied. Well, pride's as good a thing as any if you can harness it." Davos offered the half-smile that had steadied Jon through many a black hour. "And lions, my lord, may learn from wolves how to hunt in packs." Jon managed a low laugh. "You mean to stay and teach them smuggling tricks, Sir Davos?" "I'll stay as long as you need. Soon as your bannermen have wine in their veins and gold in their coffers again, I'll slip off. The sea still seems sweeter to me than any hall." "Dare ye?" Jon clasped his shoulder. "I'll be grateful every moment until then. Without you, I'd still be pacing a cell." Davos' shrug carried both humility and unspoken loyalty. "We both serve a realm that's broken in more ways than one. Stag, lion, dragon, wolf, Doesn't matter whose head's on what coin if the streets are quiet and the harvest comes. The longboat drew alongside. Over the rail, Casterly hailed them, voice ringing. "Lord Snow, the rock welcomes its guardian. Will you come ashore?" John inhaled. The title still fit like borrowed mail, pinching in odd places. "Lower the stair," he ordered, and men leapt to obey. When his boots touched the planks of the longboat, whispers rose among the Western crewmen. "That's him, the Stark bastard who slew the Dragon Queen." He ignored them. Reputation was an echo. It could not heft a sword nor mend a field. He studied Casterly. She was younger than he expected, perhaps 22, with hair the pale gold of barley sun-kissed in late summer. Her eyes, though, were steel. She saluted sharply. "My lord, the river gate awaits. We kept the garrison small, as you commanded. The common folk lined the docks." "Thank you, Casterly." He noted the cut on her right cheek, a thin pink scar still healing. Recent fighting. The Westerlands were far from calm. The rowers bent to their oars. Water pounded beneath. John faced the fortress looming ahead. Stories claimed the Casterlys once worked this cliff with chisel, forging halls inside the stone long before Lan, the clever, tricked them out of it. Towers sprouted like merlins of a godly crown. Bridges arched between spires. John glimpsed gaping lion mouths carved from stone, forming gates wide enough for 2 carts abreast. Bannermen lined the harbor ramp, crimson cloaks whipping, trumpets poised. As they passed beneath the hill of the rock, John felt a hush, as though the fortress inhaled. The cavernous dock swallowed them. Torches lit by servants cast molten light across water dark as molten gold. Stairs wound upward through natural caverns, where veins of glittering ore spiderwebbed the walls. He ascended, surrounded by sworn brothers of the gold cloaks, reformed now into Crownsguard of Bran, though John doubted they would suffice if Westerlanders rose against him. He must win loyalty, not demand it. The first hall he entered soared above like a cathedral, ribbed with buttresses carved from the rock itself. At the far end stood a dais where once the seat of Lord Tywin had commanded. That massive stone chair remained, its back carved into a lion's rampant form. Draped over it now was a simple cloak of gray and crimson, the direwolf quartered with the lion, sigil newly devised by the royal steward. John halted before the dais. Silence rippled outward, breaths held by knights, miners, cooks, stable boys, all who had been summoned. He could feel their eyes. Suspicion, curiosity, faint hope. These people bled gold, but gold could not fill an empty belly or raise the fallen. Casterly strode forward and knelt. "My lord, by decree of his grace Bran the Broken, King of the 6 kingdoms, I present to you the keys of Casterly Rock and name you Warden of the West." She extended a ring of wrought iron keys, each big as a dagger. John accepted them. The metal was cold, heavy with history. He turned to the hall, voice low yet carrying. "I was born a snow, raised in the north where winter teaches the worth of every man and woman. I ride south not as conqueror, but as keeper. This rock has stood for thousands of years. Its strength lies not only in stone, but in the hands that mine its veins, in the hearts that call these halls home. I ask no oaths today. Let service speak for itself. Help me rebuild what war has broken, and I will guard you with my life." "Meteon." Murmurs rippled. Then an older man in a smith's apron thumped his fist to chest. "Well said, my lord." Others followed. Some bowed, some simply nodded. No roar of acceptance, yet no revolt. Later, in private chambers small compared to the ones he once occupied at Winterfell, John removed his sword belt. Longclaw, Valyrian forged, gleamed in candlelight. He placed it on the table and poured a cup of Western red. Tyrion had left several casks as greeting, one kindness among many debts unpaid. John toasted the absent dwarf silently, then sipped. The wine was rich, a hint of cherries and oak smoke. He set the cup down, untouched a second time. Too many nights he had seen men drown doubts and drink only to wake with them heavier on the tongue. A knock. Ser Zalisa entered. The guildmasters of Lannisport request audience tomorrow. Also House Krakal's envoy arrived, wary about taxes. And there's the matter of the mines. Yields fell under Cersei's levies, half the tunnels unsafe. Now, Jon rubbed his eyes. Send word we will meet at sunrise. Have the guildmasters compile ledgers. The envoy can dine with me tonight. As for the mines, show me them at first light after council. My lord intends to descend into the pits? If men work there, I will too. She considered him, lips curving slightly. The West may follow you yet. She bowed and left. Alone, Jon gazed at the keys. He felt weight heavier than dragon glass, heavier than any crown. A rock does not bend, Ned Stark once said, but a river may carve it given time. Jon wondered whether he must be the river or the rock, and whether he had time enough to be both. 3 days later, Jon stood ankle-deep in cold water at the mouth of one of the lower mines, torchlight flickering on damp walls. The tunnel sloped steeply, reinforced by wooden beams blackened from age. Miners shuffled past, carrying baskets of ore. The air smelled of sweat and mold. A foreman named Marna showed a crack running ceiling to floor. Supports are rotted. Cavid once already. We lost 6 men, a fortnight past. Queen Cersei doubled quotas, took our best timber for siege works. Never replaced it. Nah. Jon pressed a palm against the fissure. Fine dust trickled. Close this section, he ordered, till new beams from the northern pine reaches arrive. Close it. Marna's eyes widened. But my lord, that's half our load. I will not have more widows made for gold we cannot eat. Better to mine slower and live. He turned to his steward, a balding fellow from Lannisport. Divert funds for timber procurement. Hire masons to inspect the other shafts. The steward nodded, scribbling. Word of the closure spread. Some miners cheered. Others worried about wages. Jon promised day labor on the new aqueduct project he conceived with engineers. To bring mountain snow melt to Lannisport's parched fields. Paying them early would silence doubts. At dusk, Jon trekked a cliff path overlooking the sunset sea. Wind whipped his cloak. Far below, waves smashed basalt. He spotted a small figure. A boy perhaps 9, launching pebbles into surf. Jon approached quietly. "Storm will swallow you if you're not careful," he called. The boy spun, eyes bright. He wore rags, hair the same gold as the cliffs. "Ain't afraid of storms, m'lord. I'm Land the Second, Kingslayer o' Waves." Jon grinned. "A brave title." He crouched. "Have you eaten today?" The boy hesitated, tooth flashing between lips. "Not but what I catch." He produced a half-eaten crab. Jon remembered the hunger of Castle Black before Stannis arrived. He unclasped a pouch of dried beef. "Try this." The boy accepted greedily. "What's your name, truly?" Jon asked. "Tom? Dottie? Tom of the Tides?" "No." "Well, Tom of the Tides, how would you like work in the stables? Warm bed, free meals." The boy paused, mistrust flickering. "Why?" "Because every lord needs eyes that see what grown men miss. You'll feed the horses, help the smith. Fair pay. In return, you tell me when folk are hungry or harmed." Tom nodded slowly. Hope dawning. Jon tousled his hair. "Report to Ser Salisi. Tell her the Wolf of the Rock sent you." As the boy scampered away, Jon gazed across the sea, thinking of another boy, once called Bastard, offered a chance by Lord Eddard Stark. Kindness could uproot kingdoms with quieter force than dragons. Autumn colors deepened. The Westerlands yielded more grain than expected. Jon's decision to import seeds of northern barley proved wise. He spent mornings in council, afternoons touring hamlets, nights poring over ledgers with Maester Kennet, a stooped scholar whose chain included a golden link for economics. Taxes were reduced but collected fairly. Surplus redirected to rebuild war-torn villages. Resistance existed. Lady Valane Westerling questioned a Stark's rule. Sir Forley Prester whispered that a wolf would bleed gold to the north. Jon invited them to accompany him to the mines, the fields, the harbor. When they saw honest wages paid and trade flowing, grudges softened. Not all. Some knights muttered in wine-soaked halls about lions bowing to wolves. John let them mutter. Deeds, not words. One crisp morning, ravens brought ill news. Ironborn reavers under Sigfrid Harlaw struck Casey, burning fishing cots and stealing children for thralls. John dispatched riders to gather levies while he armed his own retainers. He wished for Ghost then, but the direwolf remained north. Instead, he rode a crimson destrier gifted by the stablemaster, and beneath his cloak wore a breastplate quartered with lion and wolf. They marched west along the coastal road. Casterly commanded the cavalry. Sir Branston Banefort led archers. Tomo the Tides, now squire to the castle smith, begged to ride, but John ordered him to remain as eyes over the rock. The army was small, 1,500, but swift. At dusk, they reached the smoking ruins of Casey. Families wept among charred beams. John knelt with them, promising justice. Scouts reported the reavers encamped on a rocky isle offshore, drunk on plunder. John planned a night assault, archers on the cliffs, longboats silent under moonless sky. He led the first boat, Longclaw strapped across back. When they beached beneath the ironborn longships, a gull's cry echoed, the same sound that haunted his first glimpse of the rock. Blades whispered free. They moved like shadows. John slew 2 sentries before their eyes widened. By the time Sigfrid Harlaw roused, Joan's men held the high ground. Battle was brutal, swift. John faced Siegfried amid pine torches. The Ironborn swung a 2-handed axe. John parried, feeling the shock to his shoulder. He feinted left, then drove Longclaw through chainmail at the reaver's hip. Siegfried's roar curdled to a gasp. John ended it cleanly. At dawn, freed children clung to John's cloak. Lannisport banners greeted them, townsfolk chanting "Wolf of the West." They hauled captured longships into harbor. Gold and silks spilled across docks. John ordered the spoils sold to rebuild Casey and feed orphan children. Some captains grumbled, thirsting for personal profit, but Joan's resolve was steel. That night, as victory fires crackled, Casterly approached. "My lord, the men call you Lord Snow no longer. They name you Coldhorn, the chill wind that blows decay away. Let them call me what they like," John said, staring at embers floating into starlight. "We have much yet to mend." Winter approached, though in the west it meant rain more than snow. John pushed masons to finish the aqueduct before storms came. He instituted training drills among levies, merging northern shield wall tactics with Lannister spear, phalanx. He sat in judgment of disputes, mined land boundaries, trade feuds, inheritance claims. He wrote letters to Sansa in Winterfell, to Samwell in Oldtown, to Arya wherever the winds carried her. Sometimes he received replies, sometimes silence. Yet he felt less alone than ever before. One evening, Maester Kennet brought a raven from King's Landing. Queen Daenerys, surviving unsullied, now settled in Enath, requested trade of grain for silk. Bran urged cooperation. John summoned his council. Some balked. The dragon's men murdered our sons. But John reminded them that peace demanded bitter coin. They agreed to send 2 ships under white banners. In return, silk and spices would flow to Lannisport, profit lining western coffers. In the same missive, Bran hinted at unrest in the Reach. House Florent disputing Oakenshield's tithes. John sensed the undercurrent. The realm watched the wolf of the rock. Should he falter, old scars would open. He wrote back, offering mediation at Golden Tooth come spring. The first midwinter storm struck hard. Rain like hammered nails shattered against the rock. A flash flood swept down the valley, threatening the unfinished aqueduct. John rode out with laborers, ropes, and sledges, working through night to shore foundations. His cloak soaked heavy, he braced timbers while men hammered iron spikes. At dawn, battered but standing, the aqueduct channeled frothing water safely into new cisterns. The workers, seeing their lord Shoulderstone beside them, cheered. One shouted, "Gold and snow make stronger mortar." John ducked his head, embarrassed. Yet he felt warmth coil inside, belonging perhaps. As the storm abated, ravens arrived bearing grim tidings. A fever swept the hill villages. John ordered healers, herbs, clean water. He rode with Maester Kennet, distributing tinctures of willow bark, overseeing burial pyres to stall contagion. In one hut, he held the hand of a dying girl the color of straw, whispering the night's watch oath because the words had always given him courage. The child smiled before her breath stilled. John stood vigil until dawn, shoulders slumped. Back at the rock, he thundered in council. No child should die for want of a clean cup. He commanded cisterns added to every hamlet, paid by his own treasury share. He reduced tariffs on healers' herbs, angering merchants. Let them fume, he thought. Gold hoarded is gold wasted. Time ground forward, each day dense with toil. The rock changed perceptibly. Banners of vassal houses flew beside the wolf-lion sigil. Market stalls displayed northern furs beside silks from Ennea. Children played in newly paved squares. Miners sang softer songs, descending safer shafts. Rumors spread of a lord who listened more than he commanded. Yet John knew shadows gathered. The hill clans whispered of prophecy. A wolf would devour the lion, then choke. Some spoke of Tyrion's claim, though he remained hand in King's Landing. Others spread tales that John was secretly a Targaryen, come to steal their gold for dragon eggs. Lies bred in dark corners like rats. John's spies reported gatherings at Ashemark, arms smuggled from the Reach. He summoned Casterly. Ride to Ashemark. Speak with Lord Marbrand. Hear his grievances. She departed with 50 riders. 2 weeks later, ravens returned. Casterly captured, her escort slain by rebels calling themselves Sons of the Raging Lion. They demanded John relinquish the rock, or the night would burn. John's jaw tightened. He read the parchment twice, then folded it. In the hall, he addressed his captains. We ride at first light, no torches. We take the pass by stealth. Any man harming hostages will answer to me. Tom on the tides, now, taller, polished Joan's greaves. You'll save her, my lord, he whispered. I will try. That night John slept little. He remembered another rescue, at Hardhome, when dead things rose. Shadows of the past were swords at his back, urging vigilance. At dawn, cloaked in fog, they approached Ashmark's outer steads. Longclaw gleamed. Joan's archers felled watchers silently. They breached the yard where a pyre stood, Casterly's bound above oil-soaked straw dotty, her armor dented, yet eyes fierce. John's men burst forth. A short, vicious fight ended with rebels disarmed. John cut Casterly free, though her wrists bled. She staggered, then knelt, offering him her sword. A debt in blood, she said. John lifted her up. Stand, we ride home. In the dungeons, he spoke to captured ringleader Adam Marbrand. Adam spat. You're no lion. Westfolk should kneel to lions, not wolflings. Dah. John replied quietly. A lord's worth lies not in the sigil on his shield, but in the safety of his people. He sentenced Adam to the wall, not the block. Many called for death. John's mercy stoked both admiration and resentment. Spring thawed the rains. Blossom scented air in gardens once neglected. John walked terraces with Maester Kennet, discussing coin flows and canal dredging. Then a raven dark as midnight landed upon the balcony. Its parchment bore Brand's seal of weirwood sap. John opened it. War in the Reach. Avenge peace with swift diplomacy. Your presence at Old Oak requested. Bade be. Inneberu. John exhaled. The realm's wounds reopened. He must leave the rock under steward. He called Casterly, named her Castellan, and trusted Tom o' the tides, as eyes grown keen, to watch. He wrote to Sansa, to Samwell, to Tyrion. He packed traveling maps. Before departure, he climbed the highest tower at dusk. The sea burned amber. He remembered the first morning's gull cry, the weight of keys in hand. He whispered to the wind, Father, I hope I have honored your name. Below, lanterns sparked alive across Lannisport like constellations. He turned. cloak snapping, and descended to the courtyard where horses champed and sworn swords awaited. The rock watched him leave, silent and enduring. The story of Jon Snow, Lord of Casterly Rock, had only begun. The journey southward unfurled like a scroll of half-remembered ballads. They rode through the greenfield plains where barley rippled in newfound abundance, living proof that Jon's decision to share northern seed had borne fruit here as well. Farmers raised dusty caps as he passed, astonished gasps trailing in his wake. Some had never seen their new lord, only heard the rumors borne by peddlers of a wolf who ruled with lion's patience. Jon returned each greeting with a nod, cataloging silent pleas for seed loans, for sick cattle, for roof tiles, and promising answers when harvest came. Near Golden Grove, the road narrowed beneath arching elms. It was there that a flight of arrows fell like sinister rain. Jon's vanguard raised shields, one horse screaming as a shaft pierced its flank. Jon wheeled, eyes scanning shadowed brush. Bandits or rebels? He signaled a flanking sweep. Sir Gerald Swift's cavalry thundered into the trees. Steel clashed. Shouts rang. Minutes stretched until the last bowman fell. Captured survivors admitted allegiance not to rebel lions, but to Lord Florent of Brightwater, whose pride smoldered after being passed over for wardenship of the South. Jon tended a wounded archer whose hand shook with fever. "Why risk your life for Lord Florent's spite?" he asked. The youth stammered, "We were promised coin. Enough to feed kin." Jon's jaw tightened. Hunger bent men quicker than iron. He ordered the wounded cared for and sent a parchment to Lord Florent by raven. "Your men strike travelers in your name. Call them home or answer to me at Old Oak." No reply came, but the attack ceased, proof perhaps of the letter's reach. Days later, Old Oak's banners, green acorns on brown, appeared atop stout walls. Lady Arwen Oakhart welcomed Jon with guarded courtesy. Her great hall smelt of beeswax and cedar. Over spiced wine, she laid out the discord. The Florents and Fossaways quarreled over land ceded by Bran's last decree. The Tarley levy, bloodied in war, refused further marches without compensation. And whispers of a Dornish incursion flickered at the marches. This stew fermented into talk of independence, the Reach's pride stoking old fires. Jon listened through 2 hours of grievances before speaking. "The West knows the taste of rebellion," he said softly. "It leaves mouths dry no matter how much wine one swallows. But I do not come as king's cudgel. I come as proof that enemies can become family. A wolf lion sits the rock. Perhaps a thorn rose alliance can bloom here? Master." He proposed a summit at Bitterbridge in 1 month. Florents, Fossaways, Tarleys, Redwines, each to attend under peace banner. He would mediate. Lady Arwen scoffed. "They will never trust a northerner." Jon removed his glove, revealing the half-healed burn Daenerys' last breath had left. "I bear north and south both in my scars. Trust is not granted, it is forged." Reluctant, she agreed to send ravens. That night, sleep eluded Jon. He walked the ramparts, moonlight bathing rampart stones. Memories crowded. Ygritte's laughter beneath a glacier sky. Melisandre's red lips whispering prophecies. Daenerys' tears as ash fell on King's Landing. Each memory a phantom weight. He wondered if Casterly Rock was truly home or another stage toward an end. He still could not see. The wind carried distant music. Some minstrels harped from the town below. Jon followed the sound, descending a narrow stair that led to a bannered hall where tables stood empty, save for a single candle. Candlelight revealed a woman with raven hair, plucking at a small lute. She startled when Jon entered, then bowed. "My lord." "What song was that?" Jon asked. "An old western lament, the Harp of Hills." "Forgive me, I did not mean to disturb." "The castle is yours as much as mine," Jon replied. "Play on, if you will." She resumed. The melancholy tune echoed stone to stone. When she finished, Jon felt a knot loosen at last. "Well played." "Lena Hill," she said, cheeks flushing. "Bastard of Lannisport Tort. A fine named he. My stepmother was a Hill once, Lyanna Stark, in songs at least." He smiled at her confusion. "Thank you for the music, Lena. Would you play it again on the morrow at supper? The visiting lords might benefit from its reminder of shared grief." Lena's eyes widened in pride. She nodded vigorously. The summit at Bitterbridge unfolded beneath banners of every hue. Camps spread like dragonwing around the Honeywine's banks. John arrived with modest company. No golden thrones, no direwolf standards, only the blended sigil. He entered the grand pavilion to find lords already quarreling. Lord Alester Florent accused Sir John Fossaway of painting his apple green instead of red on village markers. Fossaway countered with receipts of land swaps legitimized by Queen Marguerite before her fall. Randall Tarley, arms folded like iron bars, demanded debts paid in full for spears lost against Lannister lions. Wine-splattered maps, tempers threatened steel. John raised a hand. Enough. His voice did not thunder. It cut softly, like ice wind through cloaks. The lords paused. John unbuckled Longclaw and laid it upon the table. "No man will draw steel here today. Sit, all of you." They obeyed, perhaps more stunned by courtesy than command. "We speak plain truths. The Reach fed armies that scorched King's Landing. Many here lost sons in those fires, yet winter still comes for us all. Grain cannot grow in fields salted by war." He produced scrolls, breakdowns of his aqueduct project, schedules of mine repair, ledgers showing how lowered levies had encouraged trade, and thus replenished Bran's coffers faster than Cersei's crushing taxes. "Prosperity buys loyalty," he said. "And loyalty buys peace." He proposed a tithe exchange. Western gold for Reach grain at fair rates, with shipments escorted jointly by Florent and Fossaway men, forcing cooperation. Surplus would pay Tarley soldiers to police caravans, giving them coin without raising Florent taxes. John offered to pledge the Rock's new fleet to protect Arbor wine lanes in return for discounted casks. Debate raged 2 days, tempers flaring. But John remained patient, rephrasing, yielding where pride required a token victory, pressing where the realm required firmness. On the third dawn, they signed the Bitterbridge Accords, a pact binding West and Reach for 5 harvests subject to renewal. A small step, yet cracks of distrust began to knit. During the feast that night, Lena Hill sang, her melody of shared sorrow bringing some lords to tears. John watched them, understanding that songs sometimes build bridges sturdier than stone. Upon returning to the Rock, John found Tom o' the Tides awaiting with parchment. "A ship from Bravos, my lord," the lad said. "Captain seeks audience." John met the Bravosi, a lean man named Relio, who carried a letter bearing the seal of the Iron Bank. It offered loans on generous terms, too generous. John read between lines. The bank sought foothold after Cersei's default. He thanked Relio, but deferred agreement. Gold bought today must be paid tomorrow. He would not sell the West's future for immediate favor. Later, Tom slipped into Joan's study. "My lord," the Bravosi traded whispers for wine in the taverns. He spoke of a sell-sale company massing near Fair Isle, captained by Hared Botley, seeking to sell his axes to those who'll pay. "Nandursay. Reavers again," John muttered. He thanked Tom and sent ravens to coastal lords, instructing them to double patrols. He rewarded Tom with a polished dagger. The boy's eyes shone brighter than any gold. Summer's first heat descended, stirring thunderstorms that rolled in from the sunset sea. In one such storm, a shipwreck washed ashore near Castemir's ruined holdfast. Survivors spoke Valyrian. They carried sealed letters from Prince Triarch Orano of Pentos seeking trade in dragonglass. Joan's curiosity kindled. Dragonglass had once slain White Walkers. What did Pentoshi intend for it? He dispatched Master Kennet to research old ledgers. Kennet returned with reports of dragonglass veins in the Frost Hills north of Lannisport, long abandoned as unworkable. John drafted a cautious reply to Pentos, offering limited trade pending extraction feasibility. As ink dried, he thought of the obsidian dagger Sam once used and the cold blue eyes of a king long banished. Not all letters bore opportunity. One arrived bearing Sansa's seal. Bran's fevers worsen. Citadel healers can only do so much. John stared at the words until candle wax pooled cold. He yearned to ride for King's Landing, yet duty chained him west. He wrote back, "If the realm can spare a lord for a brother, you need only send for me." He sealed it with wolf-lion wax and prayed to gods old and new. In late heat, Tom raced to John's solar. "Raiders south, my lord." Botley's men. 2 longships seen off Fair Isle. John gathered his banners, Presters, Leffords, Swifts. Marching to Fair Castle. Coastal watchtowers burned. They found Botley's men entrenched amid ancient ruins, holding villagers hostage behind spiked barricades. John studied the field, a marshy inlet, narrow approach. Rather than frontal assault, he used lessons from free folk skirmishes. At night, his men waded tidal flats, looping behind. At dawn they attacked from rear while archers feinted frontal. Arrowheads dipped in gleamed wildfire from lost stores beneath King's Landing. The strategy ruptured the barricade. John himself waded knee-deep through black mud to pull a wounded boy free. The battle ended quickly. Herod Botley tried to flee. Joan's spear throw knocked him into surf where Casterly, recovered and unbroken, dragged him out. She threw Botley at John's feet. "Lords don't hang," Botley sneered, expecting ransom. "I'm no lord to you," John answered, and ordered him chained for trial in Lannisport Square. When the sentence of death came, John granted Botley the sword himself. Some gasped that a lord dirtied hands. John thought of Eddard's words, "The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword." Autumn again. The bitter bridge pact bore fruit. Grain ships filled Lannisport's harbor, guildmasters smiling. John reopened the abandoned Gemcutters Guild, employing war widows to polish quartz, which sold well to Braavosi jewelers. The Rock's coffers brimmed enough to begin building a fleet. Small, stout galleys to deter Ironborn. One crisp evening, a raven arrived marked urgent. Bran's hand Tyrion wrote, "The king's health declines again. His grace asks after his lord of the west." John made ready to depart. But before he left, miners presented a chest. Inside, a polished ingot of red gold streaked with silver. They asked permission to fashion it into a sword hilt that might rival Brightroar of old. John declined. "Forge plowshares first, swords later." He appointed Casterly as regent and Tom as her page. In the courtyard, Tom bit lip. "You'll return, won't you, my lord?" John knelt. "A lord keeps promises. I'll return, and when I do, I expect you to have mastered letters." He pressed into Tom's hand a carved direwolf figurine. "This kept me company at the wall. May it guard you." Dimmermnedsor. Tom's mouth moved, no words forming. He hugged John fiercely before releasing. The gold road led him east. Memories layered themselves over each hill. He had once traveled this path beside armies of wolves and dragons. He rode now with a small honor guard. Near Maidenpool, he met Samuel Tarley, ink-smudged and spectacled, traveling north from Old Town. They embraced, laughter easing years away. Sam's eyes glimmered. "John, you're thinner, but happier. I carry a rock on my back. How fares Old Town?" "Rebuilding. Gormless acolytes everywhere. I'm Archmaester of Ravencraft now. Can you imagine?" He rolled eyes. "I bring a book for Bran, the lineages of the first men annotated. Citadel politics is dull as dishwater. The realm could use more men like you." John smiled ruefully. "Men like me tend to cause trouble. In the best way." They rode together, sharing tales of Lannisport's reforms and Old Town's libraries. Sam produced a parchment. Diagrams of dragonglass-tipped bolts. "A compromise with reason," he said. "Better to prepare quietly than wait for legends to return." At King's Landing, blackened spires still scarred skyline, but scaffolds surrounded the Red Keep. Rebuilding progressed slowly. Gold cloaks saluted John, whispers trailing. "The Wolf Lion?" He found Bran in a sunlit chamber overlooking Blackwater Bay. The king sat in woven willow chair, blanket over legs. Tyrion stood by, quill in hand. Bran's eyes brightened at Jon's entrance. "Brother." Jon knelt. Bran gestured him close. "The West heals, father tells me." Jon wasn't sure whether Bran meant Eddard or Bloodraven, or some chorus of Greenseer ghosts. Bran's hand found Joan's wrist, frail yet firm. I dreamed of waves breaking against golden stone. You stand upon a cliff, robed in gray and crimson, and a white dragon circles overhead, breathing frost instead of flame. Jon frowned. Prophecy? Possibility, Bran whispered. Prepare. They spoke hours, of canals, of grain, of hearts mended, and wounds festering. Bran's strength waned, but his mind roamed far as ever. He thanked Jon for steering the west to calmer seas. When Jon offered to remain for counsel, Bran shook head. Your place is the rock. The west is keystone. Keep it strong. Tyrion escorted Jon to his former solar. On the way, they paused before a shattered mosaic of dragons. Sometimes I think the realm's best chance is when men who should not rule are forced to, Tyrion mused. He poured wine. You've done more with fewer swords than my sister ever did with legions. Jon accepted glass but only sipped. Peace is a forge, not a treasure. You shape King's Landing from ash. My task is simpler. Nothing about Westerlands is simple. Tyrion's gaze clouded. Tywin's ghost stalks every corridor. Be careful, ghosts have claws. Jon clasped his shoulder. Come west, Tyrion. The rock is your home too. Tyrion's lips twitched. Perhaps one day. For now, King's debts chain me. Jon's return route took him through the riverlands where willows wept green curtains over placid waters. At Seaguard, he visited Lord Mallister, securing seasoned shipwrights for Lannisport's burgeoning fleet. In exchange, he promised subsidized timber shipments. Each trade, each handshake, another thread weaving realm to realm. As he neared home, ravens came thicker. Rumors of a shadowy court within the rock itself. Old lions plotting to unseat him. Reports named Marna Prester, cousin to the executed Adam, as ringleader. Jon rode through Lannisport gates under moon. Torches guttered. Streets seemed ordinary, yet tension lurked like sharks beneath calm seawater. He reached the keep at dawn. Casterly greeted him with a drawn face. We uncovered a plot. Prester aimed to poison the wine casks at next harvest feast. Tom discovered unusual consignments entering the cellars, alerted us. Jon found Tom in stables, wiping blood from a split lip. The steward caught me snooping, the boy explained. Didn't fancy letting me walk away. Jon embraced him. You have the heart of a knight. Could I be knighted one day? When you earn your spurs, Jon smiled. For now, you've saved many lives. They tried Marna Prester and his co-conspirators. Jon allowed them trial by combat, and Casterly championed the crown, defeating Prester's chosen knight. Prester was executed, others sent to the wall. Jon addressed the Westerlands. Justice stands, lion or wolf. The message rang clear. Seasons turned again. Children born after the war knew little of Lannister tyranny or dragonfire. They knew trade fairs, sea galleys, and tales of a lord who carried hammer as often as sword. Jon oversaw completion of a grand library carved deep into the rock, open to all who could read. He expanded a healer's college in Lannisport, inviting maesters and septons alike to study wounds of both body and mind. Widows became scribes, orphans apprenticed as apothecaries. When the first snowflakes of winter kissed the cliff tops, bells tolled from the new harbor tower. The fleet Jon commissioned now finished. 12 galleys christened with names blending lion and wolf myths. Pride of the North, Golden Fang, Deerwind. Jon watched them launch, hulls cutting froth. He felt a pride not of conquest, but of creation. Yet on horizon, clouds darkened. Word came of Dothraki Khalasars, fighting in the disputed lands beyond the narrow sea. Led by a warlord, who bore a standard of black dragon devouring a red heart. Superstition spread like wildfire. The mother of dragons returns. Jon dismissed rumors. Daenerys was ashes, but he ordered scouts along coast, just in case. One night, Bran entered Jon's dreams, or so it felt. The king stood beneath weirwood whose leaves bled into snow. A storm greater than any before gathers. The song is not ended. Jon woke in sweat. He rose, walked battlements until dawn's gray glimmer. The sea heaved restless. He thought of white dragons breathing frost and of ghosts with claws. In council, he spoke calmly. If trouble comes, we meet it prepared. Double watch. Stock granaries. Repair every beacon. His captains obeyed without question. The west's spine had hardened. Midwinter's peak brought a caravan from Winterfell. Wheels creaked into the yard bearing Sansa Stark, queen in the north. Cloaked in white wolf fur, snow-dusted hair glimmered copper beneath pale sun. Jon met her at steps, and for a heartbeat, they were children again chasing cats in Winter Town. They embraced long. Inside, before roaring hearth, Sansa produced letters of trade, but also eyes gleamed with pride. I wanted to see with my own sight what I've heard in whispers. She walked halls, spoke with guild masters, ate supper with miners. On the third evening, she confided, "You've done what father dreamed. Unity of heart if not crown." Jon smiled sadly. Unity is brittle. Bend it wrong, it snaps. Then we keep bending gently. She placed before him a carved direwolf wreath entwined with lion. A gift from Winterfell's carpenters. Symbol of faith between siblings, between realms. Jon accepted, warmth flooding chest. Sansa departed 5 days later. Tom watched wistfully, perhaps seeing in her carriage some future of his own. Jon turned back to work. The Western Winter Fair, galley maintenance, gem guild expansion, refugee settlement from war-torn stepstones. At year's end, the second festival of the Wolf Lion was held in Lannisport's Grand Square. Lena Hill sang of gold and snow weaving new tapestry. Children lit lanterns shaped like golden deer wolves, letting them drift seaward. Jon stood among them, lantern in hand. He whispered a wish for quiet years ahead, then released. Lanterns soared, each carrying a spark of hope. Across the bay, waves lapped Casterly, rock's shadow. The fortress shone under moonlight, no longer merely a castle of lions, but a home forged anew by the hands of a bastard who learned to become lord. Beyond horizon, galleys bearing black and red sails cleaved wine-dark waters toward Westeros. But those storms belonged to tomorrow. Tonight, peace reigned beneath the rock, and Jon Snow, once a nameless bastard, now lord of Casterly Rock, stood ready. Spring, crimson, and gold returned with a surge of fresh trade. The newly christened galley Dirwine sailed up the manor to Old Town, exchanging northern furs for rich spices. Reports spoke of markets buzzing with talk of the Wolf of the West. A legend, some said, who spoke the old tongue of winter's kings, and the measured speech of southern courts alike. Jon cared little for legends. He spent dawns in the practice yard with Sir Salisi, wielding blunted blades. He spent evenings in dusty alcoves of the new library, tracing shipping ledgers beside Maester Kennet. Lena Hill often joined him there, copying passages in a neat, looping hand. One afternoon, she shyly presented him with a bound collection of Western laments she had gathered, annotated with their historic origins. "Songs keep memory, my lord," she said. Jon thanked her, realizing the library's success lay not only in stone and scroll, but in people like Lena who felt claim to knowledge once denied them. Trouble brewed along the Dornish marches. Scouts reported bandits wearing sunspear badges raiding vineyard marches, though Doran Martell denied sanction. Jon rode south with a small column, meeting Prince Quentyn Martell at Night Song's crumbling walls. Quentyn's calm demeanor reminded Jon of Davos. Steady, unadorned. Together they cornered the raiders, uncovering them as exiles from the lost mercenary company Windblown, using forged Dornish sigils to sow chaos. With Martell spears and Lannister swords side by side, the threat ended in a single dusk sword storm. In camp, the night after the skirmish, Quentyn admitted he had studied dragon lore, hoping once to ride fire. Jon stirred stew thoughtfully. Dragons burn bright, but a hearth fire warms longer. They shared mulled wine beneath unblinking stars, forging respect between north, west, and south. Quentyn promised food caravans should winter so fail. A raven from Samwell brought news of dire import. Citadel monks discovered old records describing Shardfang, an albino dragon that legends placed in Valyria before the Doom, its breath said to freeze rather than flame. Sam wondered if Bran's vision of a white dragon could tie to these tales. He stressed caution. Jean met with Maester Kennet and cartographers. They plotted possible migration paths, improbable yet unsettling. John convened his war council. If rumor of a frost dragon spreads, small folk will panic, Casterly warned. John agreed and ordered quiet vigilance, each beacon tower to signal if sky-born shadows appeared, smiths to experiment with iron nets. He recalled the icy blue flame of the Night King's undead Vazirian, and felt an old scar ache across chest. Within the rock, life blossomed. Tomo the Tides, growing fast, mastered letters as promised. He began lessons with Maester Kennet, though he preferred practicing swordwork under Casterly. One evening, John found him in courtyard thrusting at straw dummy. "Grip higher," John advised, demonstrating. Tom copied, striking true. "Will there be war again, my lord?" Tom asked between blows. "There is always war somewhere," John answered. "Our task is to keep the peace where we stand." Tom frowned. "Peace feels fragile." "It is," John said, placing hand on the boy's shoulder. "That is why it must be guarded." Summer's Height ushered the first official tournament at Lannisport since Robert's reign. Knights arrived from every corner, Tarly Lancers, errant sergeants, even a handful of Stormlanders bearing the heart crowned by stag horns. John allowed the event, believing sport might channel young lordlings' restlessness. The lists erupted with color. Banners snapping, trumpets blaring, crowds roaring. John oversaw from a modest dais, refusing the golden canopy offered. Casterly unhorsed 3 challengers before falling to Sir Kittred Piper, whose skill drew applause. Tom raced messages between stables and stands, eyes alight. Lena performed at evening feast, voice soaring over string quartet. On the final day, a mystery knight in silver armor, the Argent Shadow, entered the lists, defeating all until Sir Kittred remained. Blows rang like anvils. Splinters flew. At last, Sir Kittred tumbled, forced to yield. The Shadow knelt before John, removed helm, revealing Lady Arwen Oakhart. Gasps rippled. John rose, smiling. He crowned her with wreath of late-blooming golden roses. Her triumph closed old wounds between Reach and West more surely than any treaty. That night, fireworks, an Essozi novelty, lit the harbor sky. Children squealed. Old men grinned. John watched beside Lena, who whispered, "Thank you, my lord, for letting dreams loose." "Dreams are why we build walls," he said softly. "To feel safe enough to dream." Peace, however, never rests. One dawn, ravens shrieked frantic at rookery. A frost fell across Gold Road villages in midsummer. Crops blackened overnight. Witnesses swore a pale shadow passed across moon. John dispatched riders. He rode himself to the fields. Frost clung to wet heads like glass, though sun burned overhead. No tracks, no sign of ice storm. Farmers knelt weeping. Entire season lost. John ordered emergency grain shipment from Reach reserves. He touched frost-hard stalks, uneasy. That night, maesters pored over Sam's texts. One theory emerged: alchemical residue from stepstone volcanic plumes carried by Stormcell. Yet soldiers whispered, "Shardfang." John forbade gossip. 2 nights later, watchtowers at Case sighted a massive shape gliding over sea, scales glimmering moonsilver. The shape vanished northward. Bells rang, villagers trembled. John stood on battlements, scanning starlit horizons. He felt the old chill of the wall deep in bones. He convened council at dawn. "We cannot fight shadows, we prepare." He commissioned scorpions fitted with dragon glass-tipped bolts per Sam's design. He trained archers to loose in rotating volleys. Lena composed a calming ballad. Minstrels carried it across villages to blunt fear. Tom narrated training drills to children, turning them into games. Weeks passed, no dragon returned. Frost receded. New shoots sprouted from emergency winter barley. Hope stirred again. One morning, Sir Davos arrived by sea, beard salted, grin warm. "Stormborn rumors swirl," he said. Sell sails claim a woman of silver hair leads a fleet east. Might be nothing. Might be worse. John welcomed his old friend. They walked seaside cliffs. Do you regret leaving the rock? John asked. Davos shrugged. A smuggler's home is the tide. But I see something here, lad. An honor Tywin never earned. Hearts won by kindness, not fear. John gazed across water to Lannisport gleaming sunlit. It cost more than coin. Worth every copper, Davos answered. News came that Prince Aegon of Summer Isles would visit seeking trade. That Lady Brienne, sworn to Sansa, sought to map safe roads across Crown lands. That free city envoys asked for ore rights. The world drew closer, as though the rock were once again the magnetic heart of Westeros. John mediated, delegated, planned. Yet sometimes, he climbed sunset cliffs alone, and remembered nights cloaked in watch black, when the world seemed simpler, though death loomed greater. He wondered whether ghosts envied the living, or pitied them. The first autumn leaf turned gold when Samwell Tarly arrived, unusual urgency in step. In John's solar, Sam laid out scrolls. We found it. Shardfang is no dragon, John, but a ship. A massive Myrish war galley, iron-plated prow carved like Drake's head. Her hull is lined with alchemists' frostfire casks that burst cold instead of flame. She sank decades ago, rumored lost, but salvage lords in the disputed lands refitted her. A mad captain named Araxar Talos sailed. John exhaled long. So the shadow was sail, not scale. Likely, but frost on crops, frostfire residue drifting. Then three. John assembled fleet captains. They charted intercept points along Fair Isle currents. Deerwind and Golden Fang would patrol seaward. Coastal beacons lit nightly. Captain Relio of Bravos, hearing rumor, offered his swift outrider ships. John accepted, forging alliance. Ironbank's loan convert to patrol subsidy rather than debt. Days later, Lookout spied a dark mass on horizon, sails as white as bone. John boarded Golden Fang, Davos at helm, Sam trembling yet resolute. They met Shardfang off Sunset Sea's edge. Her prow spewed icy vapor that coated waves. Naval battle ensued. John's galleys darted like wolves around lumbering Drake ship. Wildfire bombs lit night emerald. Frostfire hissed cobalt in response, chilling air. Golden Fang's scorpions loosed dragonglass bolts, piercing iron plating. Deerwind caught wind and ran Shardfang amidships. Davos commanded with smugglers, daring. Midnight became kaleidoscope of flame and frost, until Shardfang cracked, her alchemist's casks detonating in geyser of steam. She sank, taking Araxar Talos' dream to black depths. Survivors pulled aboard hissed warnings. The one who paid sails yet behind. Black sails, red heart. John met Davos' eyes. Could some Targaryen claimant fund these terrors? Proof lacked. John returned triumphant. Villagers hailed fleet saviors. Yet he slept restless, pondering unseen puppet masters. In harvest season, Bran's raven arrived. I saw your sea battle through roots touched by brine. Well done. The song shifts. Your note rings true. John smiled faintly. Even in prophecy, trust mattered. Years tilted onward. Tom earned knighthood at 17, dubbed by John with Longclaw in the same yard where Boy once swept manure. Lena Hill became first mistress of song for the Rocks College, her voice carrying Westerland's new story to far-flung hearths. Circe Elisa founded an order of shield maidens, accepting any woman trained to arms. They called themselves the Crimson Guard, cloaks lined crimson on gray. They patrolled roads, making travel safe. Under John's rule, mining accidents fell. Literacy rose, taxes balanced. No coin left the treasury without account. He refused personal luxuries, investing surplus in harbor lights, public baths, and orphanages. Visiting dignitaries from Yee to Winterfell. Spoke of Lannisport, Renaissance. Gold flowed but did not glut. The people thrived rather than nobles alone. One twilight, John stood on a balcony with Sansa, visiting again for counsel. She asked, "Do you still feel exile, brother?" John considered. "I feel many things. But exile, no. Not anymore. He looked at the rock silhouette, familiar now as Winterfell's towers once were. The sun slipped behind sea, gilding waves. Bells tolled shift change in harbor. Laughter drifted from lower terraces. Somewhere, Lena's song wove through cooling air, telling story of a wolf who found family among lions. Jon clasped Sansa's hand. Whatever storms come, we'll hold. She smiled. Together. As night embraced the rock, torches ignited one by one along battlements, like stars descending to earth. Their light shone upon carved stone lions and newly carved direwolves, standing guard side by side, symbols of realms once opposed. Jon Snow, bastard, crow, kingslayer, wolf, lion, watched the lights and felt peace, fragile yet fiercely guarded, hum through very bones of the fortress. Far away, tides thundered against cliffs. Eternal, indifferent, but tonight they sounded almost like applause. And the rock endured. 5 winters later, the realm faced one of the coldest seasons since the Long Night. Though no others marched this time, the cold pressed food stores and spirits alike. Snow dusted even Casterly Rock's lofty spires, a sight no maester living had recorded. Children squealed, having never seen true flakes this far west. They fashioned small direwolf effigies beside lion snow sculptures, laughing at the odd union. Jon, hair streaked now with silver like first frost upon charcoal, convened his harvest wardens. They opened the great granaries built beneath the rock. Vast caverns stalked through years of prudent levy. Grain caravans rumbled out to hill villages, escorted by the Crimson Guard. Despite hardship, no Westerlander starved that winter. In late frost, Bran the Broken passed quietly in sleep. An end Woodcraft could not foresee. Ravens carried the news across kingdoms. A gathering at King's Landing crowned Sansa Stark, Queen of the Six Kingdoms, for lords claimed her steady hand vital. She would let the North remain independent under Lady Alyce Karstark, her chosen steward. Sansa's first decree honored Bran's vision of unity. Her second summoned Jon to royal council. Jon rode east, older yet firm. In Red Keep's refurbished throne room, beneath banners of wolf and stag entwined, he knelt before Sansa, whose poise radiated tempered steel. She bade him rise. Lord of the West, brother of my heart. The realm stands because bastards proved more honorable than kings. Neban Suoro. She offered him post of hand. Jon declined gently. My duty lies with the rock, but the West stands ready should the crown need. They embraced, kin beyond politics. He remained a fortnight, advising on grain logistics, introducing Tom, now Sir Tom of the Tides, captain of Lannisport fleet, to royal quartermasters. Laena performed at coronation feast, her lament for Bran bringing hush to hall. Upon parting, Sansa gifted Jon a silver brooch, a direwolf leaping over lion, pins made of red gold. Jon pinned it near heart as he rode home, the brooch warm in winter sun. Years slid like water over stone. The rock's harbor expanded, cranes lifting cargo to decks as big as any in Old Town. A lighthouse crowned with mirrored crystal-guided ships, its facade carved half lion, half wolf. Refugees from Stepstones established a pearl fishing village under Yon's protection, naming it Snowhaven. Dorne signed trade routes, exchanging oranges for iron. Tyrell Regents, blooming anew, sent gardeners to transform barren mining tailings into terraces of lavender. Within the keep, a small council chamber replaced Tywin's Tyrant office. Around its oval table sat Maester Kennet, Sir Salisi, Laena, as cultural advisor, and Sir Tom, master of ships. Their debates rang with laughter more than anger, though sharp disagreements kept edges honed. Jon encouraged them to govern when he traveled, trusting in distributed wisdom. He spent springs touring estates, mediating clan feuds, personally adjudicating orphans' rights to inheritance. He carried with him not only Longclaw, but a simple wooden flute gifted by Laena. Awkwardly, he learned to play, coaxing clumsy tunes by campfire that made children giggle in delight. On Jon's 50th name day, the council held surprise tourney in his honor. Knights jousted, common folk competed in archery, horse races along beach. Jon watched from modest seat, refusing more sumptuous dais. When crowds chanted his name, he stood and spoke. I began life nameless. Today my name belongs to every one of you. Let us share it as we share the work of peace. He declared all tourney profits to fund schooling for minor children. The cheers shook ramparts. That night, fireworks spelled across sky. Snow of the rock, letters blazing crimson gold. John smiled, but quietly retreated before finale, climbing alone to a parapet overlooking sleeping sea. There, beneath cascade of sparks, he remembered every friend lost. Ygritte's laughter, Gren's desperate roar holding the tunnel, Shireen's shy smile, Jorah's devotion, Daenerys' tear-streaked face as he dealt fatal blow, Bran's hollow yet kind eyes. He murmured names like prayer. Then he exhaled and let them sink like embers into dark. Some moons later, Tom discovered love with a shipwright's daughter named Morella Waters. Their wedding filled harbor with song. John himself officiated, citing old northern vows blended with western customs. Guests gasped when direwolves and lions, real beasts carved from butter by master cooks, adorned feast tables. Lena's ballads soared. John danced once with Morella's grandmother, who teased that he moved like stiff oak, but smiled like spring wine. In following years, children ran castle corridors. Tom's son Petir with hair black as night. Lena's niece Jera, clad always in dusty parchment hues. Sir Salice's ward Halder, forging toy swords in smithy. John told them tales of ghosts and giants, of dragons and white walkers, always ending with lesson. Courage is not the absence of fear, but choosing duty alongside it. As final proof of flourishing, miners at Castamere uncovered a buried cavern of red gemstones. Instead of claiming as crown property, John declared half of profit bequeathed to families of those who perished when mines collapsed years earlier. The other half funded roads linking remote hill villages to main trade arteries. Caravans soon rolled where once goat paths meandered. With them came news, books, and choice of futures. One crisp morning, ravens whispered of new threat beyond the sunset sea. Fleets of Selazori Roin are crossing, driven by famine. John summoned council. Plans formed not for war but for aid, grain shipments escorted, settlement zones mapped. A hungry man is friend, if fed, John reminded. Knights of Lannisport ended up guiding refugees to fertile but sparsely populated valleys. Their grateful laborers revived abandoned vineyards, yielding sweet gold wine that soon became famed across realm. Thus, crisis turned to blessing. Late in life, John's scarred hand ached in storms, but he still climbed watch paths at dawn. One sunrise, he found Lena waiting, lute in hand. She presented new psalm, Stone and Snow, Heart and Home. She played. John listened, tears unbidden. When she ended, he spoke, voice rough. I once thought I would never have a home. Lena smiled. Home is not stone, my lord. It is the story we choose to live. He touched the brooch at chest, wolf over lion, and felt truth ring. When at last gray crept into every corner of his beard, John passed keys of Casterly rock to Sir Tom, now seasoned and wise. Tom knelt, but John lifted him. A lord stands for his people, not above them. Lead them as you have followed me, eyes open, heart steady. Nanta Seitao. John retired to small seaside manor overlooking the harbor he built, living among fishermen, writing memoirs at Lena's urging. He titled it, A Bastard's Hour. Children visited to hear stories. He whittled direwolf figurines. One evening, Sansa sailed from King's Landing on her flagship Winter's Grace. She walked shore with John, watching gulls dive. They spoke of bygone wars, of parents' love, of future yet unwritten. Sansa asked if he missed the wall. John chuckled. Sometimes. But here I learned walls need doors to welcome others. They embraced as siblings, rulers now emeritus, content. Years later, thunderous applause filled Lannisport Coliseum as a statue unveiled. Jon Snow, clad not in armor but simple cloak, one hand resting on a child's shoulder, the other pointing toward horizon. The plaque read, "He forged peace from ash and gold." Lena's choir sang while Sir Tom, hair-touched gray, wiped a tear. Watching from manor balcony, an old Jon Snow smiled. The statue belonged to people, but the peace it symbolized lived in the laughter of marketplaces, in starlight reflecting off safe harbors, in every dire wolf lion ornament carved above doorways. Night fell gentle. Jon lit lantern, placing it by window as he had done each evening since Sansa gifted brooch. Its glow mingled with thousands across bay. He whispered, "Long may you roar and howl together." Beyond tides, darkness pressed but found no entry. Within the rock, hope held vigil. And so the tale, born of bastardy and forged in winter's crucible, settled into legend, told by grandmothers beside fires, by sailors beneath endless skies, by children chasing dreams through stone corridors that once echoed only with lion's pride. A tale of a wolf who tamed a rock, and in doing so, carved a home for every heart brave enough to believe peace worth fighting for. Giatka, Anita Tuataswanti. The moon reread its pale script across the restless sea, and Jon Snow, older now, though age clung to him like a gentle cloak rather than a chain, found himself wandering the northernmost parapet of Casterly Rock long after the citadel had folded into dreams. Ghosts lived here still, though not the menacing shades that once pursued him in black cells, or across the green glade of memory. These were subtler. The hush of a child's breath against winter glass, the echo of swords striking in morning drills, a laugh lingering where stone steps met scented flowers imported from the arbor. Jon had learned to converse with them, for they carried old wisdom, and reminded him never to let pride's roar drown the softer truths. Below, the harbor lanterns fanned in arcs of gold, their mirrored light trembling on black water. The newly christened Galefire and Red Wolf, sleek galleys of pine and bronze, bobbed gently, ready to sail with dawn tide to Sunspear. Their holds brimmed with barley, iron ingots, and leathers dyed crimson. In return they would bring Dornish glasswork and vines bred to bloom even beneath salted western wind. Trade treaties had become the marrow of peace. Still, Jon knew each convoy carried not only goods, but suspicion, rumor, longing. Every contract was a vow, and vows had a way of twisting when men forgot why they spoke them. A voice drifted out of gloom, carried by salted wind. "Couldn't sleep, my lord." Cersei stepped beside him, red cape traced with frost. She kept no guard between herself and shadows, trusting reflexes honed in tourney lists and darker fields. A silver scar bisected her right brow, trophy from the failed Prester revolt. Age had scarcely touched her otherwise. Her eyes remained bright as heated steel. "Sleep visits when it wills, not on my summons." Jon answered with a wry half-smile. He rested gloved hands on stone so cold it stung. "The wind carries whispers of storms. My bones listen." Selisa followed his gaze until it dissolved into night. "You speak of the Braavosi cipher?" "Aye." The Iron Bank spent parchment to warn us of a massing of sell-sail caravels under Captain Raymond Sharp. They claim he's bound for the arbor, but I know Sharp. He bends toward gold wherever it glitters brightest. Some lord in hiding is filling his purse. "Noncio. Do you suspect Reach rebels?" She arched one brow. Perhaps worse. Those who dream of dragon banners unrolled again above burned fields. All it takes is a single fanatic whispering that a Targaryen still breathes. The West has grown fat in peace. We're a ripe table to pillage. Selisa's gloved fingers drummed the hilt of her sword. Then let them learn how a fat lion can still claw. Her grin flashed, but flamed out quickly. Galefire sails before sunrise. Tom commands her escort. He will keep her safe. Jon exhaled. Tomo the tides. No longer a wide-eyed stable rat, but a knight respected from Casey to Golden Tooth. Tom's wife Morella would pace quays in his absence, their twin daughters perhaps tugging her sleeves, asking why father must always chase horizons. Jon understood that ache, the cost of vigilance. He had chosen it for them all. He pushed from the parapet. "Come, Sir Casterly. We have an idle council chamber begging new maps. Bring quills." The two descended stone stairs, their cloaks trailing like red-gray comets in lantern glow. In the chamber where Tywin once plotted ruin upon ruin, morning candles cast buttery halos across the oval table. Maester Kennet, thin as a raven quill, was already scribbling. Lena Hill, hair braided with river pearls, conferred quietly with a visiting Cahoric glasswright on tower window repairs. Jon's entrance hushed the room only a heartbeat. Long habit buried ceremony beneath routine. Jon set hands to the map-littered oak. Captain Sharp's flotilla skirts the stepstones. "We believe his hulls carry mercenary spears, maybe SOC alchemists. We'll not wait to learn whose coffers pay him." He traced a line from Arbor to Fair Isle. Ser Casterly leads 3 of the Crimson Guard's swiftest outriders north along coastal road. Intercept any messenger hawks. I would know every whisper between Lannisport taverns and Old Town quays. Casterly bowed curtly. "We leave within the hour." Lena looked up, worry dimming her music-lit eyes. If war drums, could the folk bear another levy? Markets already hum with the price of cloth and barley after last winter's frost. Jon softened. "No new levy, yet. But we must remind villages to maintain their militias. Readiness, not fear." "Idio." Maester Kennet coughed softly. "There's the matter of the dredging tax, my lord. Harbor deepening costs rose when the tidal wheel cracked. Forgers threatened to shutter if duties climb higher." Jon ran thumb over knuckle. "Shift a third of the cost to my private treasury. We'll recover when the new gem-cutting guild shows profit. And send barrels of Western Red to those forgers. Small bribe for patience and good faith." Kennet blinked, then pushed spectacles up bent nose. "Very good, my lord." Lena rolled a pearl between fingers. "I'll compose a broadside for town criers. News of the harbor improvements, emphasis on safer docks for fishers." She scribbled. Jon nodded thanks, then turned as doors opened. Sir Tom strode in, armor gleaming with fresh oil. His crimson and gray surcoat pressed crisp despite Dawn's hurry. He knelt briefly, then placed a scroll on the table. "Dispatch from Sunspear delegates. Prince Quentin approved revised trade routes through the Broken Arm. Also..." He hesitated. "Reports of Corsair longboats bearing the sigil of a white shark. Not ironborn. Dornish scouts lost one skiff in pursuit." "No." Jon considered. "White shark sigil. Norvus hires such men sometimes. But Norvus seldom ventures past stepstones. Could be Sharp's vanguard." He tapped. "Map. Galefire must sail wide. Hug summer currents south of Arbor." Tom bowed. "Aye, my lord. I'll brief Captain Rhaegar." A crash interrupted. The glasswright leaned, having dropped a lead weight. Startled silence followed. Jon only nodded reassurance, then spoke again to Tom. "Return to harbor. Double watch on powder magazines. If Sharp does harbor frostfire bombs like Shardfangs, we'll not feed him tinder." Tom saluted, his presence already half out the door in momentum. When he'd gone, Kennet breathed. "The lad carries responsibility easily." Lena smiled faintly. "He learned from a good teacher." Jon felt heat rise to cheek. He deflected. "Teachers are everywhere if we look." Hours later, Jon stood on the outer mole. Sea spray dampening hair. Galefire's tall mainsail snapped overhead, emblazoned with leaping wolf and lion entwined. Tom stood by the helm, conferring with the quartermaster. He spotted Jon, saluted. Jon stepped aboard, boots thudding on Holliston deck. "Fair wind, Sir Tom. And a safe harbor when we return." Tom's grin was half the boy Jon once found flinging stones at gulls, yet tempered by years of steel and salt. Jon offered a small wooden carving of a wolf curled protectively round a lion cub. "Luck piece, keep it near the helm." Tom accepted with reverence. "I will guard it as I guard our banner." Gangplank drew away, oars dipped, Galefire surged outward. Jon lingered until her sails shrank to pale teeth on the gleaming horizon. That night, a sharp chill coiled through the rock. Jon dreamt the wall again. White immensity beneath a sky thick with ribbons of green fire. He walked along ice, footfalls muffled. only to see figures in the distance. Ygritte laughing, Bran pointing at unseen constellations, Daenerys in torn ash-gray cloak. She reached out, a plea without voice. He woke before touch, heart hammering. At breakfast, he found Laena tuning her lute by hearth. She glanced up as he poured cider, reading his drawn face. The wall again? Jon sipped. Yes, dreams of unfinished reckonings. She resumed tuning, chords soft. Perhaps ghosts knock when doors grow loose. You have built many, but old hinges rust still. Jon chuckled bitterly. El poet's counsel, oil the hinges. Laena's smile answered. And keep doors open to let ghosts pass through instead of rattling inside. 3 days passed without raven from Galefire. Kennett reminded that sea crossing to Sunspear often took more eels than letters, but worry bit at Jon. He occupied hands forging with the smiths, hammering iron for new scorpion arms, until sparks flew like orange bees. Labor soothed. By dusk, arms and shoulders throbbed, but mind calmed. Yet on the fourth dusk, bells rang thrice, signal of returning courier ship. Jon hurried to Western Quay. The courier's deck bustled. A wounded man bound in bandages staggered forth, grapple marks on cheek. He pressed a sealed letter into Jon's palm, whispering, "Galefire." Taken? Then collapsed. Jon carried him to healers before retreating to read. Tom's hurried scrawl. Intercepted near Broken Arm by Sharp's flotilla. 30 sails, each armed with frost jars and Norvoshi flame casks. Battle fierce. Galefire captured, but not burned. Crew imprisoned on flagship Blood L. Purpose: ransom or leverage for Lord Redwood, unknown master. I feign death to escape. Alliance of Sharp Redwood, exiled Reach Lord, and a masked Valyrian alchemist. Advise caution. Await orders. Tom. Jon's fingers tightened until parchment crumpled. Behind every line he felt Tom's grit. Escape in face-down sea, dagger clenched in teeth perhaps, and frostfire again, this time in larger hands. He summoned counsel swiftly. Selyse had not returned yet, scouting north. Kennett, Laena, and Captain Daeron of the City Watch answered. Jon's jaw set. We cannot spare weeks assembling royal fleet, nor can we pay ransom. We move by night, swift and silent. Captain Daeron, prepare Red Wolf, Deerwind, and 3 smaller cutters. Fewer men, more speed. I'll command. The captain's brows rose. My lord yourself? Jon met his gaze. My duty. Tom's loyalty deserves no less. The internet was. Kennett began reciting logistic protests. Supplies, coin, risk. But Jon waved them away. Pack only water, hardtack, and crossbows. We'll rely on speed and surprise. Laena stepped forward. And songs, she said. Forgive me. Ship crews pull straighter to rhythm. Let me sail as bard. I can keep stroke steady. Jon hesitated, then nodded. Your courage humbles me. He turned. Kennett, send ravens to Queen Sansa. Inform but do not request aid. We won't endanger politics. Kennett bowed, lips pursed. Preparations whirled like kicked anthill. By moonrise, the flotilla slipped beyond harbor, sails reefed low. Laena's voice, quiet but sure, guided rowers, a pulse rather than melody. Jon, standing at Deerwind's bow, felt each oar stroke echo heartbeat. Out of sight of land they unreefed sails, wind caught hard. Jon's hair whipped gray-black, salt stung scarred cheek. 9-day run if winds hold, Captain Daeron said. Less if gods smile. Jon looked to stars. Then let's make them smile. Days blurred into brine and creek. Laena's song changed with each watch. Low hum at third bell. A sea-spry jig at first dawn. Mournful lull at dusk. Jon seldom slept, studying Sharp's tactics in memory, training crossbowmen between shifts. On the 7th dawn, Crow's Nest hailed sight of sails. 3 ships anchored near an uncharted islet shaped like hooked claw. Jon raised the sight tube. crest of white shark on central mast. Among them, a larger galley painted crimson, Galefire. Derwent hove to leeward, screened by jagged reefs. John gathered officers on deck, chalked with salt. We wait for dusk. Cutters row, silent, under shadows of cliffs. Archers scuttle across Galefire's stern. Signal with blue flare, if spears resist. Or so. Daron frowned. What if Sharp Springs trap? Joan's eyes were ice. Then we teach him the sea has sharper teeth than sharks. Afternoon dragged, heat suffocating. Joan's mind roamed to Tom. Bound in hold, perhaps bruised, yet planning. Night fell starless. Cutters slipped like whispers. John crouched in bow, long claw strapped, heart thrumming. Lena remained on dire wind, commanding signal torches. Cutters threaded reefs. Salt spray kissed cheeks. Soon Galefire's shadow loomed, lanterns scarce. Crew drunk or complacent. Grapnels flew, biting rail. John led boarders up splintered hull. Deck smelled of stale ale and unwashed men. One sentry turned, eyes round. John struck pommel to temple. Silent. Dot. They advanced to midship. Below, muffled voices, men dicing. John signed. Archers unleashed, 3 quick bolts. Dice clattered, bodies slumped. He descended ladder with 4 men. The storage deck's gloom parted to reveal a locked iron cage. Tom stood inside, knives in both hands, ready despite chains. He grinned even as surprise flickered. Took you long enough. John sliced padlock. Sailors needed dramatic rescue. Tom clasped his forearm. Iron warmth passed between. But heavy footfalls echoed above. Alarm raised. John pushed prisoners toward ladder, aft where cutters waited. Battle erupted on deck. Sharp's men roused. Steel rang. John burst topside into clash of flame jars hurled, shattering cold mist. Frost crusted planks. His boot slipped. He steadied, parried a scimitar, riposted clean. Derwent's scorpion bolts whistled over, punching holes into shark sigil caravel. Smoke thickened. Sharp himself, tall, tasseled beard, appeared wielding curved saber that glowed with faint azure frost. "Snow!" he roared. "Come bleed on my deck." John advanced, long claw shimmering. Blades met spark to spark. Frost crackled where saber cut air. Sharp style flowed, unpredictable. Yet Longclaw drank strikes, Valyrian biting into saber's edge. In clash pause, John saw Tom shepherding freed crew over rail. Good. Sharp lunged, saber skimming John's shoulder, ice fringing cloak. John pivot, stepped. Hacked wrist. Saber flew d'artois. Sharp staggered. John leveled point. Yield. Sharp spat. Blue frost bubbled at lips. A vial shattered at belt, releasing alchemical cold. John's breath iced. Sharp lunged barehanded to grapple. John drove Longclaw through chest. Frostfire hissed to steam. Sharp sagged, eyes wide. John withdrew blade. Sharp collapsed, crimson freezing to deck. A horn blared from Blood L. The flagship turned heavy guns toward Galefire. Derwent signaled red flare. John shouted, "Scuttling charges!" Tom sprinted below to spark oil stores Sharp had stockpiled. John vaulted to quarter rail, grabbed rope, swung to cutter just as first blast tore Galefire's hold. Fireball blossomed. Fierce heat against frosted air. Derwent's gunners fired firepots at Blood El's towers. Alchemical stores detonated. White flames soared skyward like ghost dragon. Cutters rode furiously as both galleys burst, sending shards raining. Sea boiled. Steam rose. John paced cutter stern, eyes scanning wreck for survivors. Some of Sharp's crew leapt burning. Rowers hauled them, prisoners now, but living. By dawn only smoldering flotsam remained. Derwent limped, her foremast cracked but afloat. John stood on scarred deck, Lena against railing, lute unslung though hands shook. Tom clapped her shoulder. "Your blue flare saved us." She managed to smile. John addressed the assembly. Captain Sharp is dead. This flotilla burned, but Redwood and his masked alchemist still loom. We sail for Old Town to warn Queen's fleet, then return home. Murmurs of assent rose. He found Tom later at rail, staring at fragments of Galefire drifting. "I'm sorry," John said. "We lost her." Tom exhaled. "Ships can be built again. Lives cannot." "We saved crew." John nodded. "We'll commission a new flagship. You'll choose her name." Tom's grin returned, tempered by loss. "How about Storm of Lions?" John laughed quietly. "Fits you." Weeks later, in Lannisport's hall, John recounted the battle to council. Celise, returned from northern patrols, whistled. A white shark turned belly up. Poetic. Kennett tapped ledger. Rebuilding Galefire bleeds coffers. Yet Redwood musters forces along Stepstone still, by spy's account. We risk another front. John leaned in. Then we bleed coin so we don't bleed people. Commission, double-masted warship line. Faster than galleys. Smithed hull reinforcements. I'll ride north to Fair Isle to petition Lords Farman and Crakehall for seasoned shipwrights. Tom oversees builds. Tom stiffened but saluted. Lena produced parchment. A ballad draft titled Shark and Snow. I'll spread song to keep spirits high. Kennett allowed a tired chuckle. Folk fight harder when songs promise their heroes. John straightened. All of us are heroes when choosing the realm above self. We hold until Redwood's ambition withers. Winter bled into spring. Shipyards hammered day and night. Refugees from shattered stepstones offered labor in exchange for safety. John walked scaffolds, praising, correcting, sharing stew. Fortifications at Casey improved, Scorpion crews drilled, but Redwood struck not by sea. He struck by rumor. Merchant caravans arriving from Reach whispered of lion-wolf tyranny. Pamphlets painted John as northern usurper draining gold to Winterfell. Sansa's envoys found similar tracks in Old Town. Lies moved faster than galleys. John convened scribes. Truth cannot travel as quickly as rumor, but it can travel deeper. We'll invite merchants to witness our markets themselves. He waived docking fees for 3 months, hosted Reach Guild leaders at Rock, granted them audience to voice complaint. Their concerns were mainly toll disputes. John trimmed certain tariffs, offering long-term contracts. Pamphleteers lost thunder when merchant ledgers brightened. Still, Redwood plotted. Spies captured his courier bearing cipher referencing Project Grey Gale. Interrogation revealed plan to unleash frostfire bombs in Lannisport Harbor, crippling fleet mid-berth outside. John reacted at once. Extended inspection of every barrel offloaded. Established watchtowers with sand-doused nets for smothering alchemical flames. Lena composed drills into chant. Dockhands sang while practicing bucket lines. The attack came at dusk summer solstice. 3 skiffs slipped inside Tidal Gate disguised as fishermen. Lookouts spotted unnatural crates, raised alarm. Nets dropped. 1 frost jar shattered prematurely. Flash freezing water around a skiff, trapping it. Crew seized without fight. Under torchlight they confessed Redwood's launch site, a hidden lagoon on Crackclaw Point. John called council. Enough defense. We carry fight to Redwood. Queen Sansa approved limited strike. Errand riders escorted message hawks. Tom, commanding Storm of Lions, led task force. Celise oversaw Crimson Guard landing. John sailed aboard Deerwind again. Lena present, though he urged her remain. She insisted songs grow strongest near Forge of History. At Crackclaw Lagoon, they found Redwood's alchemist forge carved in sea cave. Crimson Guard stormed through hidden pass. Deerwind Scorpion smashed barricade. John dueled Redwood amid sputtering frost vats. Redwood mocked. A bastard sits a stolen throne of gold. I restore lions to lions. John answered steel with steel. Redwood's jeweled rapier snapped beneath Longclaw die. Redwood snarling, triggered explosive fuse. But Lena's arrow severed fuse rope mid-spark. John dashed Redwood against Forge Crucible. Valyrian blade ended his crusade. The masked Valyrian alchemist fled deeper into cave. Tom pursued, returning with empty hands. Alchemist vanished through collapsed tunnel, leaving only shards of obsidian glass mask. Explosives neutralized, Redwood's followers either fled or surrendered. Jon ordered supplies converted to fertilizer for Crackclaw farmers, starved by Redwood's raids. Victorious fleets sailed home beneath banners, whipping triumphant. Cersei presented Redwood's shattered rapier to Jon. He donated the gold hilt to orphanage fund. Peace regained, yet Jon felt simmer of unfinished threat. The masked alchemist still at large. He tasked Tom with covert network along Essosi ports. Kennett began treaty with archmaesters to outlaw frostfire export. Sansa dispatched ravens to Bravos, seeking sanction. Season cycled. New flagship Pride of the West launched, wood hull layered with brass, figurehead twin of Direwolf, and lion leaping. Music filled harbor. Laena's latest anthem, Tide of Two Souls. Her voice had matured like aged wine. Bards across Westeros carried her songs, stitching goodwill between kingdoms. Jon aged gracefully, white-touched temples, though shoulders remained broad. He sparred with recruits each dawn. Children giggled when he feigned defeat to their wooden swords. One morning Tom arrived breathless. Raven from Pentos, alchemist sighted boarding ship bound Lys. "We can pursue." Jon mounted decision swiftly. "Prepare storm of lions, Pride of the West, 30 Crimson Guard. I will lead." Celisa frowned. "Your place is where threats gather," Jon answered. Laena stepped forward, lute replaced by a steel-strung bow. "Then my place is where words yet unsung wait." Jon sighed fond exasperation but allowed her. The pursuit spanned months. Across Summer Sea to Lys lavender shores, through pirate-haunted straits to Mare's canals. Each lead slip, at last leads pointed north, to cold Korth, then shadowed bays of Ashai. Tom warned, "Dragons and demons roast sailors who trespass black cliffs." Jon retorted, "We lived north of the wall. We know darkness already." They sailed, seas turning indigo under unfamiliar constellations. Harbors whispered of pale alchemists purchasing wyvern venom and obsidian shards, shaped like fangs. Jon felt circle closing. Frostfire born of alchemy, obsidian born of fire, combined perhaps into weapon to freeze and burn both. At Ashai, citadel dwarfed by twisted towers, they anchored at dusk. Streets stank of incense and rot. Local guide led them through labyrinth to abandoned observatory. Inside, runes glowed faint azure. Vats of quicksilver bubbled. The masked alchemist awaited, robe aflame with sapphire motes. He spoke Valyrian, Tom translated. "I am Syrian the Pale, heir to Dragon's shattered crown. When I freeze the seas, Westeros will kneel." Jon stepped forward. "Dragons died in old Valyria's folly. Leave Westeros in peace." Syrian laughed like icicles breaking. He hurled vile, frostfire erupted. Crimson Guard advanced. Scorpions mounted in courtyard fired dragon glass bolts. Battle within hall, mirrored nightmare. Frost-coated pillars shattered under swung blades. Poison fumes hissed. Laena's bow thrummed. Jon met Syrian atop spiral stair where open roof revealed blood moon. Valyrian spear versus Longclaw. Sparks white-blue and white. Syrian's movements unnatural, like marionette jerked by cosmic threads. He wielded alchemical packs strapped to gauntlets, spraying cold vapor. Jon's cloak iced stiff. Breath steamed. Feigning stumble, Jon let Syrian lunge. He parried wide, then pivoted, slicing straps on alchemical pack. Frostjar dropped. Syrian startled. Jon drove pommel into mask. It cracked, revealing chalk-white skin, etched with black veins. Eyes glowed blue. Syrian hissed. "The long night is but slumber. I am its herald." He drew hidden dagger of obsidian, thrust. Jon caught blade in gauntlet. The dragonbone weave deflected. Jon whispered, "Night ends." Long claw cleaved mask fully. Blade sank into Syrian's chest. Alchemist reeled. Frostfire within pack ruptured, freezing his own veins. He toppled from parapet into abyss where ancient waters lapped. Explosion of azure-lit night. Silence followed. Tom raced upstairs. "You live," John exhaled. "We all live tonight." Lena joined, face smudged. "If night ends, dawn deserves song." Months later, returning heroes, they found Casterly Rock thrumming with festival. Sansa had arrived with royal retinue. She embraced Jon before cheering crowds. Tom knelt before throne dais. Sansa dubbed him Lord Admiral of the Western Fleet. Storms of applause greeting. Lena presented new anthem, Ballad of Frost and Flame, premiering before thousands. Lines told of ghosts laid to rest by courage, of alchemy undone by loyalty. Eyes glistened. Merchants gifted casks of arbor gold. Children waved wooden dragons painted white with red slashes through them. That evening, Sansa and Jon conversed privately under lanternlit arbor. She noted lines at his eyes. "You've given Westeros something Father never saw. A realm stitched by empathy, not conquest." Jon shrugged. "Empathy wields its own blade." Sansa touched brooch at Jon's cloak. "Still direwolf leaping lion. Promise me you'll rest now." Jon gazed west towards horizon-drenched copper. "When tides allow." She shook head fondly. Years passed. Alas, time's march yields to no vow. Yet that march was gentle. Redwood's rebellion remained footnote. Sharp's frostfire a legend to scare children into closing doors. Sarion's name a caution scribbled in citadel tomes. Jon's fleet patrolled not with raised swords but lowered planks, assisting vessels in storm, ferrying grain to famine lands. School ships, carrying healers and masons, sailed under banner of Wolf Lion, welcomed from Bravos to Summer Isles. In letters, Queen Sansa wrote, "Your West teaches rest of realm how to heal." Jon wrote back modestly, crediting coin and patience of people. Lena's college became beacon. Minstrels from Uati to Norva studied. Her songs guided harvest rhythms, marriage dances, lullabies. She wed at Tyroshi Glassrite, first ceremony where bride and groom wore matching cloaks of woven gold-tinted glass threads. Jon gave her away like father of bride. Tears blurred his world. Tom grew legacy. Daughters served as pages. Son Peter sailed apprentice compass. Storm of Lions mentored next generation of helmsmen. Sarah's Eliza eventually accepted command of Queen's Crimson Fleet, leaving younger knights to guard Rock. Jon gifted her a sword, forged from Redwood's melted rapier, renamed Dawnrider. Maester Kennett passed quietly in study. Scroll on chest. Jon wept. Arranged torchlit procession to harbor where Kennett's ashes scattered. At 69 years, Jon awoke with ache deeper than usual. He walked terraces as dawn painted sea coral. The ghost, old yet fierce, visited from north with Tormund's caravan, white muzzle speckled gray. Direwolf padded beside Jon. Memories flooded. Jon sat on bench hewn of granite, ghost at his feet, waves far below. Birds wheeled. He watched children practice wooden swords where once he had. Lena approached, hair streaked silver. She carried lute. "A new dawn," she said. Jon smiled. "They come every day, and yet each surprises us." She sat, strummed gentle. Jon's mind drifted. To Winterfell snows, to Sam's laugh, to Ygritte's flame kiss, to Daenerys' sorrow, to Bran's far-seeing eyes. All wove into tapestry he now touched lightly. Tom strolled over, grandchild perched on shoulders. "Grandfather Jon, show me sword stance." Jon rose slowly, joints complaining. He took child's wooden blade, demonstrated guard. Ghost huffed approvingly. After lesson Tom's eyes met Jon's. No words, respect sufficed. That night Jon recorded final entry in memoir. Peace demands daily bravery. He sealed scroll, placed with direwolf lion brooch. Before dawn he passed in sleep, ghost's head across his knees like watch resumed. The realm grieved, yet rejoiced in life he forged. In Lannisport Square they built second statue. Jon seated on rough bench, hand on direwolf, gaze bent toward children mid-play. Inscription: Hay saw the child in every foe and the wolf in every friend. Lena sang Stone and Snow one last time. Her voice cracked yet soared. Tom, eyes wet, declared Western Fleet forever open to bread, not chains. Queen Sansa arrived bearing Stark banner. She laid it across statue base. "Brother, you kept your watch," she said. And those storms churned still in outer seas. Within Casterly rock hearts remembered how a bastard of Winterfell taught lions to share hearth with wolves, and how in learning they discovered the rock's truest treasure had never been gold, but the hands that mined it and the hearts that spent it freely. The waves kept time. Hush, hush, hush. Promising stories echo would linger as long as tides climbed cliffs and children carved wooden wolves to guard their slumber. And thus Jon Snow, once bastard, once crow, once reluctant lord, became something rarer than king. A keeper of peace whose legend needed no dragons, only the enduring courage to hope. He slept beneath marble and lion-wrought gold. Yet even stone could not silence the sea. Every dawn, when pale light ghosted across the western breakers, the tide's sigh threaded through iron grates and spiral stairwells, curling at last around the crypt where Jon Snow lay in quiet dignity. Somebody, no one quite knew who, had planted wolfsbane beside the casket, a sprig from Winterfell carefully coaxed to root in the cool, salt-scented chamber. Its violet blooms glimmered as if they'd stolen a shard of dusk, their slender stems shivering whenever the surf boomed against Casterly rock. On the first name day after his passing, the city gathered upon terraced ledges and harbor quays, thousands of candles flickering like fireflies caught in glass. Fisherfolk tipped lanterns toward the dark merchants raised polished cups of arbor red, and children scattered carved driftwood wolves into the waves. Lena Hill's voice, thinned by grief yet still bright as tempered silver, carried up the cliff face. Her ballad told of bastards and lions, of frozen nights, and molten summer fields, of stone remade by patient water. High above, the statue of Jon on the bench seemed to lean into the song, marble shoulders softening in amber torchlight. Farther inland, the golden vineyards of Golden Tooth, newly replanted with Dornish vines, swayed beneath a sky of bruised lilac. Sir Tom of the Tides rode there with his eldest daughter, Elenia, both cloaks snapping crimson and gray. They paused at a ridge to watch the flickering lights on the rock. Elenia, barely 16, and already taller than her father had been at that age, whispered, "Grandfather used to say the sea remembers every name." Tom nodded, swallow thick. "Aye. And the wind writes them back when needed." "I'm here." He spurred Stormrunner, son of the destrier that had borne Jon in his final campaign, down the slope toward the festival fields. Their tents bloomed like strange flowers, and laughter tumbled across campfires. Tom dismounted near a freshly erected tilt. Knights of the Western Circle invited any willing to test lance and shield for sport, not conquest. In Jon's day such tourneys had been small. But tonight 100 banners rippled, Oak of Oakhart, Sun Spear of Dorne, Trident of the Tully Wardens, even the dire wolf of Queen Sansa herself. Tom greeted Sir Darian Tarth, blue-armored and easy-smiled, then clasped wrists with Lady Rowena Crakehall, a bear of a woman whose joust victories were already legend. The talk, though merry, returned always to legacy. Rowena lifted her helm, cheeks flushed. "Strange thing, Admiral. Morning felt emptier than I thought it might. Yet here we are, celebrating. Feels like his doing somehow." Tom answered, "He prized joy when sorrow gathered. Would have scolded us for solemn faces." Rowena grinned and called for more mead. Elenia slipped from her horse and drifted into crowds, eyes taking note of everything, a habit Jon himself had carried. She lingered beside the blacksmith pavilion where sparks flew high as songbirds, then joined a circle of acolytes trading tales of ghosts on the Old King's Road. One spoke of a pale figure in ragged cloak glimpsed near Case, white-haired, eye-eyed, carrying a blade that exhaled blue mist. Elenia felt uneasy stir, recalling her grandfather's warnings. Monsters do not perish with stories. They wait in silences we forget to guard. That same hour, Maester Tiber of the Rock, Kennet's successor, finished copying the last of Jon Snow's memoirs into the great annals. He sanded ink, blew gently, and closed the leather covers. The candle's flame shivered, and Tiber fancied he smelled frost among wax. Outside, winter was months away, yet he tugged his robe tighter. The wind moaned through arrow slits. Not the roar of a storm, but a long repeated note, like someone humming an unfinished refrain. Across the sunset sea, beyond reefs that gleamed pearl white under moon, the remnants of Sirion's disciples retreated below decks of a black brigantine named Voidshard. The masked alchemist's death had shattered their fellowship, but one among them, Lady Mykara of Myr, kept the broken obsidian mask wrapped in scented silk. She knelt before it nightly, tracing cracks with starlit fingertips. In her mind, Jon Snow's steel had not extinguished the dream. It had ignited a vow. Frostfire was a mere instrument. The true weapon was despair seated among hearts grown soft in peace. Mykara's spies moved quietly through harbor taverns from Bravos to Lannisport, stirring rumor. The Rock's coffers had emptied, funding fleets and orphanages. Taxes would rise soon. Western debt to Ironbank dwarfed the gold mine's output. Queen Sansa eyed the Westerlands with crownlenders' hunger. Lies found fertile ground, where years of plenty had smoothed vigilance. By late autumn, whispers ran like hairline fractures through the stone of unity. In Casterly Rock's council chamber, Admiral Tom, Lady Laena, Ser Darian Tarth, newly appointed Master-at-Arms, Maester Tiber, and Lady Rowena crowded around a topographic chart. Tiber read the newest raven. 2 caravans vanished on the Gold Road. Wagons burned, drivers frozen as though plunged in sudden winter. Darian observed, "Only frostfire can kill so neatly." Rowena clenched mailed fist. "Then Sirion's ghost comes calling." Tom shook head. "A ghost needs legs and coin. Someone sponsors these attacks." Laena's voice, soft but hard in center, cut through. "We will hold a conclave of the West. Every minor lord, every guild, every free company captain invited. We speak plainly, before rumors possess them." Tom agreed. Invitations sped out on swift horses, sealed with lion wolf, wax dot. Before the week's end, banners converged like migrating fireflies. Silver horns of Brax, burning tree of Marbrand. Despite their ancestors' treason, sable boars of Craighall, cluster grapes of Vance. Even the Hill clan chieftains rode shaggy garons down from crags, axes slung in peace. The conclave convened in the amphitheater carved into Casterly Rock's western face, a space rarely used since Toyam's triumphs. Now sun poured over tiers of stone seats, glinting on elaborate armor and plain homespun alike. Tom, wearing a simple jerkin stitched with the direwolf lion sigil, opened proceedings. "My friends, the sea whispers of shadows grown bold. We gather not to brand enemies, but to tend cracks before they widen." A low rumble of assent answered. Yet when Lady Walda Westerling rose, gray braid coiled like a rope across her shoulder, she spoke of final taxes due for the northern grain shipments, grumbling that surplus rotted in barns while miners clamored for new picks. Lord Gowan Farman responded that harbor duties on Torin wines had collapsed his margins. 2 rivermen argued over toll rights at the Red Fork crossing. Murmurs swelled, tension thickening. Laena stepped onto the floor, lute in hand. She did not sing. Instead, she played a single sustained chord, clear as dawn. Voices paused. She let the note fade, then spoke. "7 years ago, frostfire scorched our decks. A bastard's courage bound our wounds. He left coffers he could have hoarded to feed your widows, left halls he could have gilded to house your orphans. He gave us something rarer than gold. Trust, and tonight some among you trade that for rumor. Trust, and tonight some among you trade that for rumor." Her words fell like hammers. Even Lady Walda flushed. Rowena bellowed, "Hear, hear!" The dispute ebbed. By dusk, a charter passed. Each house would contribute lumber or coin to strengthen watchtowers. Harbor dues would adjust on sliding scale. A new board would audit shipments, preventing spoilage and extortion. A council of minstrels, Laena's suggestion, would travel annually, carrying news and songs to keep hearts tuned. But that night, in the dark hour between bells, someone slipped into harbor granary, and fired tar-soaked rags. Flames leapt, devouring barley until patrols doused them. Blackened sacks bore a sigil scorched half intact, a white shark in profile. News reached the rock before dawn. Darian traced a gauntleted finger over chart. Sharp symbol returns. Tom scowled. Or forgery. Whoever strikes tries to frame past ghosts. They interrogated dock workers. No one saw culprit. Rowena doubled the night watch. Still, attention lingered like long teeth on the back of the neck. Elenia had taken to visiting archives at midnight, reading her grandfather's memoirs by candlelight, searching for patterns. She found passages describing Sarian's preaching. He believes fear will weld sundered peoples under a cruel answer. Another passage recounted a Myrish noble's curiosity in frostfire infusion. Elenia shut the tome, heart thrumming. Makara of Mir. Could she be peace yet unslain? She slipped to the rookery and wrote a message to Maester Samuel in Old Town, requesting any mention of Myrish alchemists abroad. Meanwhile, far to east, Voidshard anchored near the shattered towers of Valeria's smoking coast. Makara donned the cracked obsidian mask, rewelded with silver staples. She knelt before a circle of braziers that hissed greenish vapor. Fire and ice, she whispered, our twin blades and hearts the sheaths. Her disciples hummed. At her order, they poured fused dust of dragonglass with quicksilver into glass spheres. Frost spread across jade coals. Her plan, not to burn crops or freeze caravans, but to shatter symbols. If the statue of Jon Snow toppled, if Casterly Rock's harbor lighthouse crumbled, the people would remember again how helpless they once felt. And into that void she would glide, offering a creed of austere obedience. She dispatched 3 sleek Dromons westward, holds packed with frost glass bombs and sappers skilled in quiet masonry. The lead ship, Indomitable, flew no colors. Its captain, a Bravozy killer called Black Janos, laughed at gulls riding the wind. The lion wolf sleeps on laurels, time to wake him with fangs, he told first mate. In Lannisport, Maester Tiber received Samuel's raven, a ledger, from Meyer listing purchases of alchemical copper by Lady Makara 6 months after Sarian's fall. Tiber ran to council chamber mid-session, scroll shaking. Tom absorbed details, eyes hardening. Prepare evacuation drills. Increase lighthouse wardens. No signal lantern douses tonight. Darian read the purchases aloud. Copper, dragonglass grit, chimeric salt. Ingredients for frost bombs. Rowena slammed fist on table. Time for swords, not scrolls. Lena suggested broadcasting warning through song. A new refrain repeating, watch the waves, keep the fires. She dispatched performers to taverns that afternoon. Elenia approached her father privately. Let me help. Tom frowned. Your place is safe walls. She argued. Grandfather never hid from storms. I can read currents like charts. He relented enough to place her on lookout duty atop the new western tower, under Sir Darian's coaching. 3 nights later, Elenia's keen eyes pierced mist. Far off, a black triangle parted the moon's path. Sail angled wrong for local trades. She rang the wolf bell once, a low toll reserved for suspected raider sighting. Garrison sprang quietly. Rowena's blacksmiths lowered portcullis. Crimson Guard archers took stations. Strings waxed. Indomitable and its sisters ghosted closer. Oars muffled. When within bowshot, Black Janos ordered catapults to fling bundles into harbor. Spears shattered on impact, spreading glittery mist that turned dock ropes to brittle crystal, water to slush. But the lighthouse bell answered, not in alarm but measured pulses. Chain gangs shoveled salt sand into casks, heaving them onto frost patches to blunt spread. Archers launched fire arrows. One caught Indomitable's mainsail. Blue flame blossomed. Sailors screamed as frost and fire warred along yardarm. From the Rock's cliffside battery, scorpions rigged with dragonglass bolts hissed through night, punching holes in second Drummond. Lena stood beside the gunner captain, lending steady beat on drums so crews timed cranks. Tom directed harbor galleys out of moorings, pivoting into channels hammered by the tide. Small but nimble, they harried the enemy's flanks. Black Janos barked orders, loosing grapnels. One seized lighthouse stair platform, men hauling, but Rowena charged down narrow steps, plate booming, met them with maul. Wood splintered, brazen helmet dented under her swing, the grapnel line severed. Invaders plunged. Darien led Crimson Guard onto adjoining pier, shields interlocking to absorb frost shards. Amid clash, Elenia spotted sleek skiff gliding for Statue Precinct. 3 shadows leapt ashore with satchels. Heart skipping, she abandoned vantage, sliding down rope to courtyard. She snatched a torch, pursued through maze of arcades to plaza, where John's bench statue brushed moonbeams. Sappers knelt at base, unpacking frost charges. Elenia knocked arrow, loosed. It thudded into Sapper's shoulder. She sprinted, blade drawn. One assailant hurled frost bomb. She ducked. Sphere burst against marble column, ice racing up. The shockwave numbed her arm, but she pressed, slashing second Sapper's hamstring. Third figure, slender, turned. Mycara herself. Mask luminous dyed. Eyes behind obsidian studied Elenia. Voice drifted like wind, over grave snow. A child wields courage, a realm fails. She drew dagger crusted with pale crystals. Elenia circled. This statue's only stone. You fear what it stands for. Mycara tilted head. Symbols hold hearts. Break the symbol, hearts crack. They clashed. Elenia parried dagger, riposta short. Sparks flew walnium. Mycara styles serpentine. Years of assassin craft. Yet Elenia matched with drills Darien had honed, footwork taught by father. Mycara feinted low, snapped frost vial at Elenia's thigh. Cold burned cloth. Pain bit. Elenia gritted, dropped shoulder, rammed pommel into Mycara's ribs. The alchemist staggered but slashed mask edge across Elenia's brow. Blood-veiled eye. Statue loomed behind, carved smile gentle. Elenia back to stone, breathing ragged. Mycara produced final charge, primed fuse. Goodbye, child. She stepped. A bellow cut air. Ghost, ancient yet relentless, bounded from archway. Jaws wide. He slammed into Mycara. Charge flew, hitting flagstone, skittering toward stair, starting to hiss. Elenia dove, clutching sphere tossed high. Ghost yanked Mycara down, teeth at throat. The alchemist shrieked, stabbing, white fur stained red. Elenia caught sphere midair, saw fuse spark inches tall. With desperate cry she hurled it seaward. It arced, exploded above bay in silent bloom of frost shrapnel. Mycara rammed dagger again into Ghost's shoulder. The dire wolf clamped harder. Elenia lunged, blade sinking into Mycara's back. Mask cracked anew. Shards fell like obsidian tears. The alchemist stilled. Ghost released, panting. Across harbor, indomitable listed, engulfed in firestorm. Remaining Drummond reversed oars, retreating. Harbor defenders cheered. Tom arrived, cloak torn, eyes frenzied when he spotted Elenia kneeling by Ghost. He took them into arms. He met his daughter's bloodied gaze, saw Jon Snow's steel there. Pride and terror warred in him. They carried Ghost to Healer's Hall. Lena cleaned wounds, singing low. Rowena posted Crimson Guard at door. Maester Tiber prepared poultice of honey, snow willow, poppy diarrhea. Old direwolf endured needles with stoic growl. At dawn, smoke drifted offshore. Enemy sails gone. Harbor remained. Lighthouse still shone. Statue unharmed. Save thin spatter of frost easily brushed away. Council reconvened. Darien laid Mycara's broken mask on table. No further ghost remains, he declared. Tiber cautioned, beliefs linger beyond breath. Rowena responded, then we keep forging hope. Tom turned to Elenia, now bandaged at brow. Your stand saved the heart of our West. Elenia shook head. Ghost saved me. Direwolf's amber eyes watched from doorway. Tom spoke, voice hoarse. Hay saved us twice. Once through grandfather, now through you. Perhaps we owe him rest at last. They allowed Ghost to roam cliffs. His pace slower but spirit bright. Often he lay near statue, head on paws, watching horizon. In the months following, Queen Sansa traveled to Rock, bestowing on Elenya the Order of the Silent Wolf for conspicuous bravery. She elevated Lena's college to Royal Conservatory, its graduates tasked to circulate factual news to quell rumors. The harbor lighthouse was renamed Beacon of the Bastard King, its brass mirrors etched with wolves and lions entwined. Tom oversaw a reconstruction of burnt granary. Survivors of attack swelled Lannisport's heart. Volunteering labor. Rowena's shield maidens patrolled roads free of tolls. Trade flourished, yet vigilance remained creed. Children memorized frost alarm drills alongside harvest songs. Each new ostler learned to spot alchemical frost by its faint silver sparkle. Seasons wheeled. The Queen's envoys negotiated final treaty with Iron Bank, debt refinanced at modest interest, backed by gem cutters' guild bonds. Farm and vintners produced first vintage of Goldwolf wine, profits funding widow pensions. At Winterfell, ravens carried word of Western victory. Queen Sansa penned in her diary, "My brother's West grows strong not through walls, but through open doors. May the rest of 6 kingdoms learn." 20 years later, on anniversary of Conclave, grandchildren of those who fought assembled on beach. They erected white pillars of polished driftwood and red stone, forming arch where the tide kissed sand. Inscribed, "Courage is the song we choose to sing together." Admiral Tom, hair silver, shoulders broad, watched his grandchildren race hunting gulls. Elenya, now captain of Pride of the West, stood beside him, scar faded to silver thread, eyes scanning waves. Ghost's great-grandpup, a lean gray named Mist Song, chased foam. Lena, voice mellowed but still steady, sang from atop dune. A new ballad weaving stories of children who blocked bombs, of old wolves who defied death, of seas that could be friend or foe depending how we listen. Her song drifted far, carried by gulls to fishing fleets, by caravans up Gold Road, by merchants to summer isles. In a small graveyard, carved into wind-shaped niche, Makara's mask lay buried beneath cairn, stacked by harbor laborers. No sign marked it, only a single stone carved with wildfire-scorched inscription, "Never again." Ivy crept over, and seabirds nested, undisturbed. When Admiral Tom's final day came, he asked to sit upon Jon Snow's marble bench once more. Dusk-smeared sky coral. Elenya escorted him. He touched statue's cool hand, exhaled. "We did well, Father." He spoke to stone and to memory alike. Elenya squeezed his shoulder. "Your watch is done." A gull cried overhead. Tom tilted face to wind, smiled, closed eyes. Breath left gently, like tide pulling back into hush. City bells tolled. Sails dipped. Elenya assumed Admiral's reign, adamant set with lion and wolf engraving. She ordered shipyards to build a new scout cutter, Wave Watcher, in memory of her father's vigilance. Years fled in bright procession. Lady Rowena taught martial forms until knees ached, then trained smiths to fold war steel into plowshares. Ser Darian returned to Tarth, establishing Westerling Tarth exchange of sapphire and gold. Lena retired to Riverside Cottage, finishing Epic of the West in 12 scrolls, each illuminated with seahorse ink and frost silver leaf. Queen Sansa visited during last winter of her reign, gifting a ring carved from weirwood root. Together they read passages by hearth until dawn. Elena aged, yet morning found her often at crest of lighthouse, scanning water through brass scope, just as her grandfather had scanned for white walkers upon the wall. Once, on clear autumn day, she spotted brown sail bearing unicorn banner of Skagos. She laughed remembering ghost stories. Signaled harbor to welcome guests with hot cider and stew. Fear had lost hold. Hospitality stood guard instead. At century's turn, Western historians assembled at conservatory to finalize chronicles of the Lion Wolf Age. They debated when exactly War of Frostfire ended. Some argued it ended when Makara died, others when Granary rebuilt, others when Conclave Charter signed. An elderly scribe raised hand. "It ended when we learned to meet rumor with song, swords with open counsel." Quills scratched that verdict into vellum. In the last chapter, They quoted Jon Snow. Peace demands daily bravery. Marginal note added by Laena's grandnephew. And daily kindness, which is the braver of the two. Long after, scholars still journeyed to Casterly Rock to sit on the stone bench beside the marble man and read carved words at base. He forged peace from ash and gold. Many left offerings, quills, wooden wolves, broken manacles. Waves below kept hushed cadence. Sometimes, on nights when moon sailed clear across indigo, an aged gray wolf could be glimpsed prowling cliff path, pausing to stare at statue with eyes like embers. Guard sentries swore they heard it growl approval, then vanish on wind. Whether ghost or grandchild of ghost, no one knew. But they smiled, for it meant the watch endured. In quiet seasons, children still asked, "How did the wolf come to rule a rock?" Tutors recited tales, each adding flourish. Yet the heart remained constant. A bastard fought for strangers until they were no longer strangers. A direwolf taught lions to hunt with pack. And the sea, endless, remembered every name inscribed with honor, returning them in murmured foam, so the living might never forget the sound. Thus the legacy of Jon Snow did not rest in granite or coin, but in customs shaping generations. Doors unbarred, councils open, songs truthful, vigilance tempered with mercy. And as long as Sunset Sea kept shoreline, as long as Lighthouse Beacon burned, as long as a single child learned to temper sword with kindness, the Lord of Casterly Rock yet lived. For peace, once forged, needed every sunrise to be wielded anew, and the people had chosen bravely to keep that blade sharp.